Why we shouldn't always celebrate those convicted. The following will be in brief, and note, I will be mentioning a few cases people may be passionate about and at least one topic that may trigger half the population. Everything stated is either by years of extensive research, inspired by personal events, or first-hand knowledge. Reading and listening, discretion advised. I observe how so many people celebrate when someone is convicted simply because of their emotions. Just because someone is convicted doesn't mean they are guilty. In today's world, we more often than not see guilty people walk free. Not only walk free, but are successful with lawsuits because the courts then see them as the victim. Countless stories on this. The following will briefly examine why not celebrate convictions. But first, ask yourself this: how does someone prove they are innocent when no crime has been committed? At 2 minutes 16 seconds of the below video, a judge discusses an old USA Supreme Court ruling where an innocent person can plead guilty to a crime they never committed, even when everyone knows they are innocent, if that person feels doing so is in their best interest. This is called pleading Cause of Alford, link provided below. An example of pleading guilty being in someone's best interest could be a lighter sentence, as the alleged evidence being overwhelming and not being able to afford proper representation, or if the person knows there is an agenda. Take for example the case of O.J. Simpson, a case of an innocent man being prosecuted. If he didn't have the wealth he did, he would never have been able to prove his innocence. You thought he was guilty? The real serial killer admitted to the crime after he was put in prison for other killings. New facts of the case the public and police didn't know. His mother still had the necklace he took off of Brown's body, witnesses, etc. The killer was Glenn Rogers. I will add the controversy with some surrounding Rogers is, did O.J. hire him for a theft and Rogers botched everything up? This is despite Rogers stating he was on his own. Link below. Agendas can include social justice pressure, usually based on emotions and fallacies. Take for example the case of Brock Turner. Despite everyone thinking he is guilty, review of the evidence and after-the-fact admissions by the female shows he was innocent. She was embarrassed being caught having consensual drunk sex in the bushes by two people riding bicycles. Two busybodies making uninformed conclusions and escalating matters by yelling and chasing Turner. Moreover, she was worried about her father finding out the truth. Link provided below. I highlight two videos, one above and one below by Diane Davidson, who is the co-founder of the Lighthouse Project that helps falsely accused. It's also my understanding she is continuing her education in law, believing it will help her. She was one of many people who I was in direct contact with regarding my case over the years. I have emails where she refused to help me. Furthermore, being in the system and adhering to the status quo does nothing, as I will highlight below. An example of social justice warrior feelings impacting even judges can be observed with cases like Judge Camp, where his words were taken out of context. In case you don't recognize his name, he was the judge who lost his career for asking why the alleged female victim couldn't keep her legs closed. Based on trial transcripts, the judge couldn't understand how, if her bum was inside the sink, her legs would be wide open for the alleged rape to occur. Link provided below. Then there are cases like Daniel Holtzclaw, who trusted his lawyers, a former police officer convicted of rape while on duty, despite evidence to the contrary. Link provided below. Stephen Avery, who also trusted his lawyers, who spent 18 years in prison for a rape he didn't commit and was later exonerated. Days before his lawsuit for the deliberate wrongful conviction, a murder was pinned on him with the real killer being known. Not only was he convicted of the murder he didn't do, but his mentally disabled nephew was clearly told what to say for admission and also convicted as well. Link provided below. And even my case, as a result of whistleblowing and exposing about sexual abuse, trafficking of vulnerable women, as well as police, judicial, political corruption. Link provided below. This began for me by telling the provincial healthcare what I know of sexual abuse, trafficking, to false accusation by a female that may have been directed by someone to discredit me, to false accusations by 2 former officers that lasted from 2013 to 2019, and the corruption of the courts, and as I mentioned above, agendas, political interference. The only thing that kept the false narrative about the female being used against me in my case is my not trusting any of my representations and courts, as well as my working knowledge of law. My 4th lawyer did say to me, if you didn't do what you did with the female, there would have been no hope for you. My efforts of audio and videotaping the female was being suppressed by everyone. Thus, when I took over my trial, I introduced it, and this is when the so-called criminal trial judge said he was wrong to include her. But now it was about damage control, so the police and city are not liable. It appears someone wanted my reputation completely destroyed for some reason, more than what it is now. As I had no career in law to lose, it allowed me to pull no punches. As stated above with Davidson, when part of the system, the prestige of title, career, and income are compromised when punches are not pulled. This is why it took 49 months to conclude the misdemeanor summary offenses of allegedly assaulting a police officer and obstruction. I used my working knowledge of law and my skill sets that put me on the map at the height of my career for my defense. My 4th lawyer did say to me, "You did what any good lawyer should do." To further the emotional impact of the social justice mindset, add in when prepubescent children, pedophilia, young adult teenagers, and I will spell this word, EPHEBOPHILIA, which most people confuse with pedophilia, and the claims accepted by women, feminism, that are around 70% false, are part of the equation. People don't think clearly and assume the above said are always truthful. People just want blood. I'm going to interject here. The CDC, NISVS, DOJ, Scientific America, etc. reports show women have far higher numbers with pedophilia, sex with prepubescent children, sex with those below the arbitrary number of the age of consent, which varies over time and region, young adult teenagers. And this is called, I will spell it again, EPHEBOPHILIA. Raping of anyone of any age, common criminal activities, domestic violence and violence in general, mental abusing, murdering, excluding abortion, use sex to gain the upper hand, etc., than men. Alone, with the help of others or through others, and almost always get away with everything they do, and when they don't, the punishments are far less than for males. Yet the focus only being on males being the ones who do these things, and double standards, not only with the courts, but society. Don't forget paternity fraud, where studies show over 50% of fathers are not biological fathers, murdering babies via abortion, and false accusations too. But I digress. Perhaps giving the benefit of doubt, accusers actually believe their claims. The studies made famous by Julia Shaw gives insight to this. Her studies challenge the reliability of witnesses in court. Link provided below. This segues into more than 60% of people convicted of anything are innocent, whether convicted by alleged admission or by the courts. Let's not forget how laws are becoming more and more abstract and how real crime rates are at an all-time low, but police, courts, and prisons are flourishing. The handful of innocent people who try to fight for their innocence were, are, and will be up against the mob mentality, who are also part of the alleged justice systems. The tiny fraction of people wrongfully convicted and exonerated years, decades after being found guilty in prison is a drop in the bucket. I'll add, an innocent person convicted doesn't have to be physically in prison to be in prison, although I experienced this as well regarding my case. I have seen online papers written by students talking about my case. such as Trayden James, who said I deserve 6 years of hard time in prison, assuming I'm actually guilty, after the so-called criminal trial judge on my case published my conviction. A side note, a few lawyers I spoke to thought it was odd how students would choose my case to do papers on. So before people start celebrating someone they feel is guilty being convicted, remember law has become like theoretical mathematics, neither of which having a basis in reality. And I haven't even addressed the double standard between the common person and those in authority-type positions when it comes to being found guilty and walking free.